is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Time for the Football Night in America podcast. We're going to break down Week 14 here with you, Maria Taylor, alongside Matthew Berry, Mike Florio, and Jason Garrett. Devin McCourty, he left us, so we're going to have to do the show without him, and I think we're going to make it through. Let's start with the Bills and the Rams. It was the highest scoring game that we've seen so far this season. The Bills' 7-game win streak is snapped, and I guess if there's no snow, like the Bills play a little bit different. They're like, how do we win? But what is your takeaway, you would say, from this game?
My biggest takeaway from this game is the Rams are going to be a problem. I think they control their own destiny to get into the playoffs, to win the West as well, and they're fully healthy now. I mean, again, you saw the team sort of struggle a little bit when Nacua was out, when Cooper Kupp was out, but when Matthew Stafford is healthy, when those two guys are healthy, when they're running the ball with Kyren Williams, they're going to be a really tough out. And so I think if you're the Lions, if you're the Eagles, if you're other teams in the NFC playoff picture, you don't want the Rams in the playoffs because they've been there, a bunch of veterans and a great coach in Sean McVay. I think this was because Josh Allen was as great as you can be, and this was a big win for the Rams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been saying for weeks on PFT Live, the Rams are the one team the Lions don't want rolling into Ford Field in January. Matthew Stafford coming back. He almost beat him last year. He almost beat him week 1. You don't want to give him a third chance. And I don't think any of the teams in the NFC field want to give the Rams a chance. This is the team you want out. You don't want them in. But let me flip it to the Bills. Amazing stat today. You usually have the stats. I got a stat.
Okay, go for it.
First time in the Super Bowl era that a team had 6 touchdowns and no giveaways and lost.
Yeah.
245-0 was the record for teams before today. I mean, the Bills were offensively flawless. Josh Allen, 3 touchdown passes, 3 rushing touchdowns, but their defense just disappeared. But yeah, the Rams healthy. The Rams are going to be tough to beat if they get in. And there's plenty of teams at the top of the NFC that don't want them in.
Yeah, a lot to attack with this one for me. Matthew said it about injuries. I think for me, when you pull back on the NFL this year, injuries have been more impactful on teams' performances maybe this year more than ever for me. When those guys were out and the receivers weren't playing, they weren't very good. Now they're back, and all of a sudden they're playing really well with the Rams again. I think the Rams' defense has been a little bit of area of a concern all year long. It was again today. And then just for me, as a former quarterback, a guy who coached quarterbacks, guy who loves football, I just admire those guys. I admire watching Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford play the game. They played an elite level. Both those guys nearly flawless in their decision-making, their playmaking ability. In the big moments, they were at their very best. So it was an unbelievable game for me, as good a game as we've seen all year long.
You know what? And the other thing I just want to talk about Josh Allen, one of the things we've talked about with the Bills for a while now is that it has to be a team win. It can't be just, hey, Josh Allen, put on your Superman cape and go win it for us, which is what almost happened today. I mean, entering the fourth quarter, they were down 38-21 on the road to the Rams, right? They gave up 24 points in the first half. The Buffalo Bills do. This is a team coached by Sean McDermott, a defensive-minded head coach. Like, this is a team that needs to be able to play good defense, and to go on the road at L.A. in an important game and get eviscerated the way they did defensively, that should raise some concern in Buffalo. Here's the other issue. Look at their upcoming schedule. So they're at Detroit next week. If that defense doesn't show up against the Lions next week, I think you have to be concerned. Now, schedule-wise, they're going to be fine for the playoffs because here's the remaining schedule. Home to New England, home to the Jets, at New England. But that's my concern, Coach. If that defense doesn't show up against Detroit, and then the next 3 games are offenses that aren't going to really test you, all due respect to the Jets, I know they had a decent game today, offensively, I think you're worried going into the playoffs and having to face maybe Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or some of these other high-flying offenses in the NFL.
No doubt, and they have been a more balanced team this year, and they've been more balanced during the 7-game win streak. I think the other thing for me is it's hard to keep winning games week after week. We've seen the Lions with the long win streak, Buffalo 7-game win streak. These are historic numbers. It's hard to do that. They had the big snow game the other night, our game on Sunday night. Then they travel west. So I think that can contribute to this, but they have to reset and reset quickly because stopping that Lions offense will be a challenge.
Well, let's get a look into the NFC West because it's getting a little more sticky with that Rams win. And for that, we go over to Steve Kornacki to help us break it all down.
Yeah, a momentous day in the NFC West. And for the Arizona Cardinals, frankly, a dismal one. What a golden opportunity they had coming into today. Home game against the Seahawks, the team they're chasing. Had the Cardinals won that game, their chances of winning the NFC West at the end of the day would have been about 50%. Instead, with the loss, all the way down to 4% now, barely a pulse in Glendale. Meanwhile, with the win, the Seahawks now up to 8-5 here. That's 4 straight for them, and their chances of winning the division now up to nearly 60%. The challenge for the Seahawks, if they want to stay there, look who's next week. Sunday night, they got the Packers, and even if they win that one, who's next after that? You don't see it here, but it's the Vikings. And the other potential problem for the Seahawks, look right behind them now in the division standings. The Rams, with that monster win you're talking about, 7-6 right now, a 33% chance for them to win this division. But here's the key for the Rams. They actually control their own playoff path. Why is that? They got a Week 18 date at home against the Seahawks. Rams already beat them once. So the bottom line for the Rams, if they can get to the final week, even a game behind the Seahawks, just win that game, they'll win the division. And by the way, at 7-6, probably bears worth mentioning too, the Rams now just a game behind Washington, who's holding on to that 7th and final wild card spot.
Let's move on to the Eagles now. So a 9-game win streak. The Panthers came in, certainly challenged the Eagles, and maybe we saw some issues arising in the past game. Florio, we were listening to some of the post-game conversation coming out of the locker room, and it just seemed as though maybe there was some discourse or discord between players, coaches, and
Well, yeah, and it's odd to see for a team that's won 9 games in a row, but the passing game wasn't there today. Saquon Barkley has been the thing that's been really fueling the offense, and the Panthers, a team that should not be going into Philadelphia and giving the Eagles everything they can handle, did. Now, look, you're not going to blow everyone out. You've got a big game with the Steelers coming up next week. I think the hallmark of a really good team is to find a way to win on a day when you just don't have it. And it felt today like they just didn't have it. And it's a warning shot, I think, Coach, to get the attention of everyone because they got some tough games coming up. Starting next week with Pittsburgh, they're going to have tough playoff games. And they're too good to have lapses like they did today, and they need to have a better passing game, and they've got the tools to have a better passing game.
Yeah, I love what Dan Campbell said last week after they had the near miss, the close call against the Bears on Thanksgiving. He said, we're not evaluating wins. We won the game. We're gonna look at it in-house, and we're going to move on. And I think that needs to be the approach. There's too much evaluate. Kansas City, they're 11-1, but they're winning up. It's hard to win in the NFL. So for Philadelphia to win 9 straight and to beat a team in Carolina who has been playing much better lately, everybody who goes and plays them, it's been a tough out here the last month or so. It bothered me that there was all that conversation after the game. And Philadelphia last year, they started 10-1, and then they went like this because there were some issues in-house. And for me, it's like tamp that down, address the issues, get better and move on, take that win and get ready for the next one. You said it, Pittsburgh, it'll be a real challenge for them. So no hangovers on a victory in the NFL. Just keep moving.
Yeah, I would agree with that, although I feel like they have the right attitude. They should be upset. You know what I mean? Like they were double-digit, they were almost 14-point favorites in this game. They were 2-touchdown favorites against the Panthers, and no doubt, the Panthers have played a lot better recently. Bryce Young's played a lot better. Credit to the Panthers, and that organization feels like it's heading in the right direction. But the Eagles are vying for the #1 seed in the NFC. This is a team they should have handled. It shouldn't have been this close. It shouldn't have come down to Xavier Legette dropping a pass that should have been a touchdown. Like he lost control of it, it hit the ground and moved a little bit, and so it wasn't a touchdown. If Legette holds on to that, Panthers win the game, and so I think the Eagles have higher aspirations, rightfully so, and they should be upset. And I'm good with that. I'm good with them saying, hey, a win isn't that good. You know what? We need to be taking care of business. All that said, I know there's a lot of people that want to say, even Jalen Hurts said, hey, the passing offense isn't where it needs to be. A.J. Brown was open a couple of times in the end zone. He missed a couple of open receivers. Having said that, during this win streak here, 23 total touchdowns for Jalen Hurts, only 2 turnovers, no turnovers today. Look, they're limiting what Hurts does, but he is playing mistake-free football. They've got a great defense, and so give them credit. Like they have found their identity, and sometimes, to your point, Coach, we just talked about this about the Bills. It's hard to win in the NFL. And so the fact that they gutted out a win, and this is the kind of game that they might have lost last year, kind of a trap game where they're maybe looking ahead past the Panthers. So I give the Eagles a lot of credit for finding a way to win this one.
Yeah, no doubt. And in terms of the post-game comments, for me, it's, hey, it wasn't good enough today. We're going to get back to work together and try to make this thing better. This idea that we're lamenting a certain portion of our team, hard to win. We're happy about the win. We're going to get back to work, and we're going to try to improve next week. And that's the approach, and keep it positive and proactive.
And I think that's important, too, because you're getting ready to play the Steelers, and they're going to be looking for these little things that maybe they can use, and they know that if they can really focus on A.J. Brown, maybe take him out of the game, maybe he gets frustrated during the game because it's a continuation of what we saw last week. I don't think you want to show your warts to the world when you're winning. When you're losing, it's unavoidable. When you're winning, everything's great, everything's fine, and we'll handle our issues in-house.
Frustration is an unproductive emotion in life and in football.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I want to put that on a poster and hang it in my room. I'll also, you should be writing motivational posters, Coach.
Yes.
But the last thing I'll say is we just sort of touched on it a little bit, but I want to just give credit to the Carolina Panthers. This is an organization, a team that could easily have said, like, you know what, it's not our year. We're already making vacation plans and figured it out. And they came out and they played in a game in which, again, they were big underdogs. They gave the Eagles everything they could handle. They ran the ball really well. That's as good a defensive line in football. And Chuba Hubbard and that Panthers offensive line held up well. They ran the ball well. And Bryce Young, once again, looked really good. You know, we talked a lot about Dave Canales when he got hired by the Panthers. This is a guy that kind of resurrected Geno Smith's career. He resurrected Baker Mayfield's career. It was like, can he fix Bryce Young? And I'd argue they are well on the path to doing that. Like, credit to Bryce Young and the entire Panthers organization for, if I'm a Panthers fan, I feel optimistic about the future, whereas a month and a half ago, maybe I didn't.
Yeah, let's go back to that, though, because we had a lot of conversation about Bryce Young and, you know, when do you play guys in an organization? First player taken, it's Bryce Young versus C.J. Stroud, all this kind of stuff. Okay, should we trade him now, move on, cut our losses? And that guy heard all that. He hung in there, waited for his opportunity to come back, and was ready for it. And Maria and I were sitting next to each other in the screening room, and you could see right from the start how confidently he was dropping back early in the game. He's a different player than he was a month and a half ago, and credit that guy. It's not going to be easy going forward, but he put his feet in the ground and hung in there and has fought back. And he's got a real bright future. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it looked like he had a chance to seal a game-winning drive. I mean, he showed all the confidence. He's, like, smiling. Like, everything looks like there's an energy and a resurgence.
Leggett comes down with the ball, which he should have. Leggett comes down with that ball. It's a different conversation we're having today about both teams.
Yeah, and also shout out to Saquon Barkley setting the single-season rushing record for the Eagles. Very impressive, and we're going to wait and see if he could break Eric Dickerson's record. All right, let's move on to the Vikings blowing out and ruining Kirk Cousins' homecoming, which Mike Florio was so looking forward to. You know, he was so interested and intrigued in this game. He has his full purple, like almost suit on. We're going with the monochromatic look.
I wear what they give me.
Sure. It's so fitting that it's this week. But the Vikings look good.
And, you know, I have been saying from time to time that they're boring this year. Today was not boring.
No.
Today was what that offense can be when everything is clicking, when the offensive line holds up, and at times it didn't. There were several sacks today, but 3 touchdown passes to Jordan Addison, career high for him. Justin Jefferson, who hadn't had a touchdown reception since their loss to the Lions, he gets his. Aaron Jones has a touchdown late in the game. 5 total touchdown passes for Sam Darnold. First time a Vikings quarterback has thrown 5 touchdown passes since week 1, 2004, Dante Culpepper against the Cowboys. Wow. That's how long it's been. And first time the Vikings have scored 42 points since week 7 of 2019 against the Lions. So this is a surprise. It's a good surprise, and it's a perfect time of year for it to happen because toward the end of the year, you want everything to be falling together. It fell together today.
What I liked, it was 21-21 to start the fourth quarter, and Sam had played well up to that point, but then he put the pedal down and really got going. And when Jordan Addison is making the plays he's making, and then Justin Jefferson is making plays, I mean, 3 touchdowns for one guy, 2 for the other guy. They both have 130 yards receiving. You know, certainly not what Atlanta wanted going into the game, but the confidence that Sam Darnold's playing with and the balance they have on offense, it's a really good environment. It was a fun game to watch.
It was a great game to watch, and I'm really happy for my friends that are Vikings fans, like Michael over here, and for Sam Darnold. Again, it was interesting when Sims talked to him on football night. He was like, it's like, hey, you were supposed to be a downgrade from Kirk Cousins, and you know, I mean, like, I was impressed that Chris said that directly to Sam, but that was the narrative, right? Here's the guy that got the $100 million contract over here, and Sam Darnold's just sort of, he's the backup to J.J. McCarthy, and he outplayed him. Just echoing what you guys are saying here, but I thought that was great, and if I'm a Falcons fan, I'm really nervous because the Buccaneers won today and the Falcons lost. They've lost 4 in a row, and I think, you know,
it doesn't look good and it doesn't feel good.
They made a push in the pregame shows today. I heard it at least 3 different times that Kirk Cousins will not be benched this year for Michael Penix Jr. Okay. Well, that doesn't tell me anything about next year, and it could be one and done for Kirk Cousins in Atlanta if they don't make the playoffs this year. But at some point, do you have to roll the dice with Michael Penix Jr. to try to save things, shake things up, just change for the sake of change to see if it makes things better?
Well, every decision you make is in the best interest of the team. It's not in the best interest of the quarterback or the coach or whatever. So you have to pull back and say, what's best for us going forward? We're in the thick of this thing. We're right there with a month to play in the season. So if they really think that Michael Penix gives them a better chance, they better act on it. They can't worry about feelings. They just got to make the right decision. For me, the bigger thing is I have this image of Kirk Cousins the last month dropping back with people all around him and standing in there trying to make these plays. And to me, I'd like to see them hand the ball to Bijan in the zone running game and then get the movement game going. Kirk Cousins has been very good at that throughout his career, and I think that just takes some of the pressure off them. Attack the defense a different way. If it's all about him dropping back and being better than the defensive coordinator, the pass rush and the pass coverage, I think it's tough sledding for them down the stretch.
And because of the contract, obviously, and Kirk Cousins is a big star, a lot of the narrative is going to be around him. But Raheem Morris is a defensive coach, and they went into Minnesota and they gave up 42 points. Kirk can't do it all of himself, right? And I'm sure there's some throws that Kirk would like back, and it wasn't his best game, but you can't give up 42 points. And you think about some of those long passes to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. There was a lot of busted coverages on that. Credit to Sam Darnold and the Vikings for taking advantage of that and taking some deep shots, but you can't give up 40 in a must-win game like this.
That was the story of the game.
The one thing Darnold can do that Cousins can't do is run away from pressure when the walls close in. The biggest play of the game came when Darnold got away from pressure and Justin Jefferson was standing wide open. That's a play that Kirk Cousins simply cannot make. And the first interception Cousins threw, we were talking about in the screening room because they were showing on Fox the view from behind him. Like, he knew that ball was getting intercepted, but what else am I going to do? He throws it and it gets picked off, and he's had several of those like that. So they've got to make a decision. They're going to be making one after the season. They may have to make one during the season.
The last couple weeks, his judgment on some plays late in the down have been really poor. The interception he threw in the end zone against the Chargers last week, and then that one today that you're referring to. And when you have a veteran quarterback like that, you think that he's going to be the guy who makes the right decision in those different situations. But it just doesn't feel right. They don't feel in rhythm. They got to get something right there. There's no doubt in my mind, or else they're going to have a hard time making the playoffs.
All right, well, let's see what this skid. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we get to the speed round, just want to get your quick reaction to after. All right, we're going to do it after. I'm being told to do after.
Okay.
Speed round. All right, I got something.
Because first is going to be Steve Kornacki on the NFC South to see what that loss really means for the Falcons. Walk us through it, Steve.
Biggest shakeup of the day in the NFC South. Both teams coming in 6-6. As you're talking about the Falcons, they drop the game, go down to 6-7. The Bucs get that win. They go to 7-6. With that, the Bucs take over first place in the division. That would give them, if they could hold on to that, a home game in the playoffs very critically. And their chances of holding on to that top spot in the division now 64%. The Falcons plummet from 51 to 34% with that loss. Remaining schedule for each team, relatively manageable. One team, both teams are going to play one team with a record above 500 right now. But let's broaden out the scope here a little bit and take a look at the trajectory of this division. It really is kind of staggering what's happened. These are the odds to win the division. Now, 5 weeks ago, this is where the Atlanta Falcons were. What that means is they were prohibitive favorites to win this division. Why? They were 6-3 at that point. Looked like they might run away with it. Some tough games in here, certainly. Haven't won any of them. Those losses to the Chargers, to the Broncos, today to the Vikings. And meanwhile, that coincided with Tampa hitting kind of the soft part of its schedule. They were sitting here at 4-6. What's happened since then? Well, a win over the Giants, over the Panthers, today the Raiders. It's the Bucs now who are favored to hold on to that top spot, win the division. Would be their 4th straight NFC South title, by the way. But here's the one note of caution for the Bucs. If you trip up even just once, you could be in trouble because the Falcons did beat the Bucs twice already this year. If it comes to it, the Falcons still have the tiebreaker.
All right, thanks, Steve. It is a long night for Steve. Not election night, but it has been a long night. We appreciate all his help. It's a long night, exactly. Okay, what do you want to do before speed round?
I was just going to say, I just wanted your reaction to this. Breaking news, Juan Soto is going to the Mets for $765 million, a 15-year deal. $765 million.
I'd say to all NFL players, play baseball if you can.
Right?
Or basketball.
Yeah.
Already told
Mamas,
my son that.
grow your baby.
Get you a baseball player. Okay,
exactly.
Now it's time for the lightning round. I like that. Coach, you want to get in the baseball?
Yeah, I'm just shaking my head.
Right.
Can't believe it.
Mamas, put a glove in your baby's hands.
There
That's
you
what
go.
I'm going to tell you.
Make him a lefty.
Yep.
It's the giving season. What gift would you give? We have our gift here back here. We got our Happy Holidays Football Night in America gift. The Falcons, what would you give them so that they can still win the division, Matthew?
How about some new gloves to hold on to the ball? During this 4-game losing streak, they have 9 turnovers. They have a -8 turnover differential that is worst in the NFL during this stretch. Cousins threw 2 picks today. Ray McLeod had the bad fumble. 4 picks from Cousins last week. They're turning the ball over way too much. You can't win in the NFL when you're giving the ball away that much.
I'd give them the old-fashioned scales of justice and balance because, and you've alluded to it, they need to have balance. Run and pass. They get too one-dimensional, too predictable. It's too easy to get to Kirk Cousins and rattle them. They've got Bijan Robinson. They've got Tyler Algier. They need to use those guys more.
Agree with both of those. Really good comments. I just would say get some juice back. They don't have much juice. They don't look good. The quarterback doesn't look like himself to me. The last month, he just has a bad look in his eye. He's kind of doubting himself. His decision-making is reflecting that. You know, those gold chains that he had on the plane when he was doing his dance with no shirt, he needs to get that mojo back. And that's what that team needs right now, and they need it fast.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's go get him some gold chains, take him swag surfing, get him out to Magic City, do a couple things in Atlanta that
you're right.
spur him up again a little bit.
Get him right.
Do you know where that is, Florio?
I don't.
Okay. Let's go at the 49ers. What gift would you give them?
I would give them a pair of Mr. Miyagi's hands. You remember Karate Kid?
I got the
where he was able to
proof. I got it right on my page. Miyagi.
Miyagi hands.
How you spell Miyagi's?
I don't know. That's how I spell it.
Miyagi.
Trying to make them healthy. Like, I mean, you know, Bosa's out. Trent Williams is out. Their defense is so beat up. Isaac Guerrero, who's the backup to Jordan Mason, who's the backup to Christian McCaffrey, left this game with a foot injury. The starting running back job of the 49ers is like the drummer in Spinal Tap. It just, whoever has that job just seems to get hurt. They can't stay healthy. They've had the worst injury luck. And so that's what I would give them is some magic healing powers.
I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking. And look, if this team can get it together, they got a long way to go. But if they would be another team if they would get into the postseason, teams don't want to see them because they'd have that lift. We got nothing to lose. Nobody believes in us. Everybody left us for dead. That would be a dangerous team in January.
Incredible cultural references by you, all in one answer. To me, it's just their swagger, and we saw a little bit of that today. That's what's been the difference for them over the last 5 years. On defense, they just played with an edginess. Right? On offense, there was a confidence that they had, and we saw that in their game today. And some of it had to do with the opponent they were playing. But if they can get some of that back, to me, the running back is irrelevant. So many backup running backs have played well for Kyle Shanahan through the years. So run the ball, have balance, get your edge back on defense, and who knows, take it one game at a time. And nobody's going off face at the end of the year. I know that.
What about the Dolphins?
I'm going to give them what they already have. A tough schedule for Denver, right? They're 2 games back of Denver for that final wild card spot. That's what they need. The Dolphins are playing well. Their upcoming schedule isn't that bad. Now, they need to win. Obviously, the Dolphins need to win. They're at Houston, home to San Francisco, at Cleveland on Sunday Night Football, and then at the Jets. But assuming they can win out, what they need is the Broncos to lose. They're off the bye. The Broncos are home against the Colts. That's not a gimme. Then they've got to turn around on a short week. They go to the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. So short week, they're traveling on a short week. Then they're at Cincinnati. They got to face Joe Burrow. And then they're home to the Chiefs. So, like, that's what they need. They need Denver's opponents to beat them, is what they need.
Yeah, you're right. They need somebody to collapse. Somebody who's already locked into one of those 3 wildcard spots needs to fall apart, or they've got no hope whatsoever in getting one of those positions.
I just think they need some playmaking on defense. Aaron Rodgers probably had his best game of the year this week against them. They moved the ball fairly easily. They have some older players. They've dealt with some injuries. They just need some guys to make some plays, so it's not all about Tua and Tyreek and Waddle and Achane every week. They just need some help on the other side of the ball to make some explosive difference-making plays.
What are you going to give the Steelers so that they can make a deep playoff run?
Yeah, some pass-catching help for Russell Wilson. George Pickens wasn't in this game, and so listen, they're piecing it together with Freiermuth and Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson, but we need George Pickens to get healthy, and we need some of these other wide receivers. Mike Williams had a couple of nice plays today, him to get more assimilated in the offense, but to make a deep run in the playoffs, they're going to need more than a good running game and a really good defense, which is what they have right now. You got to give Russ some help and give credit to Wilson. He's playing well.
I think they have everything they need. They don't need anything from us. They are ready to get to the playoffs and win some games. I asked Cam Hayward about that today. What's different about this team than the teams in recent years that have gotten to the playoffs and lost? Because they haven't won a playoff game since in Kansas City 2017 season. And he said, we play complementary football. We get it from all phases. We play together. We're always positive. We always believe. So, we saw, I don't know if you watched Hard Knocks, Mike Tomlin just pulls open a bag of chili cheese Fritos, kicks his feet up. They can just do that. They don't need anything more. Just keep doing what they're doing, and they will be competitive in January.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. They don't need a lot. The one thing you'd love to have for them, if you're a fan, is the home playoff game, because anybody going there in January, that's a tough environment to play, as we all know. So if they can keep doing what they're doing, I love the balance they have. I love the playmaking ability on defense. Russ is playing as well as he's played in a long time, so I like their team.
All right, well, that's what we would like to give each of those teams for the holidays. They didn't ask for it, but we're sending it anyway, okay? Florio is Santa Claus. He loves the season of giving.
Chili cheese Fritos for all. And to all a good night.
Make sure that you join us for week 15 of Sunday Night Football. We got the Packers going on the road, taking on the Seahawks, and our coverage will start with Football Night in America at 7 Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.